Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
And we invite Sri Sanchari Devi to begin our program with her beautiful bhajan.
Shambho Mahadeva Sada Shiva Ambujanayana Narayana Shambho Mahadeva Sada Shiva Ambujanayana Narayana Hara Om Sada Shiva Hari Om Narayana Hara Om Sada Shiva Hari Om Narayana Shambho Mahadeva Sada Shiva Ambujanayana Narayana Hara Om Sada Shiva Hari Om Narayana Hara Om Sada Shiva Hari Om Narayana Pannagabhushana Sada Shiva Pannagashayana Narayana Pannagabhushana Sada Shiva Pannagashayana Narayana Kailasvasa Sada Shiva Vaikunthavasa Narayana Kailasvasa Sada Shiva Vaikunthavasa Narayana Gauri Sameta Sada Shiva Lakshmi Sameta Narayana Gauri Sameta Sada Shiva Lakshmi Sameta Narayana Hara Om Sada Shiva Hari Om Narayana Hara Om Sada Shiva Hari Om Narayana Parvati Ramana Sada Shiva Papa Vimochana Narayana Parvati Ramana Sada Shiva Papa Vimochana Narayana Bhasma Vibhushita Sada Shiva Shri Gandhalepita Narayana Bhasma Vibhushita Sada Shiva Shri Gandhalepita Narayana Ananda Rakshaka Sada Shiva Apad Bhandava Narayana Ananda Rakshaka Sada Shiva Apad Bhandava Narayana Hara Om Sada Shiva Hari Om Narayana Hara Om Sada Shiva Hari Om Narayana Hara Om Sada Shiva Hari Om Narayana.
We are recording from the ashram of our revered Guru here in Miami, Florida. Today is September 16th, 2018, Sunday. And tonight, Gurudev continues with the lecture on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. This is series 2018, class number 15. And now our revered Guru.
Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kansachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Om. Adorations to Lord Krishna, the preceptor of the universe, destroyer of the forces of darkness, and bestower of immortality. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, known as Sankhya Yoga, Yoga of Knowledge. And presently, the topic is Sthita Prajna Lakshanas, the characteristics of one who is rooted in unshakable wisdom. Simple words, characteristics of one who is enlightened. How do you know the person is enlightened? The simple concept, there will be light coming out of the person. But mature and profound understanding must be promoted. How the more clarity you have of what it means to attain enlightenment, what it means to be progressing on the spiritual path, and where you are being led to. This whole picture has to gain increasing subtlety. How you understand to begin with will not stay the same as you advance. So I will not detail upon it because people have so many concepts. They are going into sadhana. Soon they will have darshan of God and they will ask for wonderful success in their business. If they own one-story building, now they will have 50-story building. I'll just give you a crude illustration. Similarly, people have their own different concepts. And they begin to evaluate themselves on the basis of how they think they are successful. To give you furthermore distraction, aspirants studying Kundalini Yoga, they have hardly practiced Kundalini for 10 days. One of them says, my Manipura has arisen. Another says, my Anahat Chakra has opened up. I sneezed, my entire spine has become clear. The Nadi Shuddhi has. And there are people who say, my Sahasrara opened up and people don't recognize me. And these are not just jokes, they are realities in so many ashrams. So it is important to have a very mature understanding of the spiritual path. And what does it mean to be united with God, to have bhakti, to attain liberation, mukti? Do you have to go somewhere else to gain mukti? No, we'll not go into too much detail. In 57th verse, यह सत्व सर्वत्राणि भस्नेह हम तत्प्राप्य शुभाशुभम नाभिनंदति न द्वेष्टि तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता. He who is without attachment in everything and while meeting with good and evil neither rejoices nor hates, his wisdom is established. Very quickly said. Everyone faces life. Life is characterized by happenings. Sukh, dukh. Sukh, joyous situation develops. Dukh, frustrating situations develop. What seemed the positive situation in the morning, the same situation by the evening doesn't appear as good. And then there are situations that you don't have to, they are completely frank, like fragrances. Storm comes, shakes your roof, it's frank. You don't have to figure out, is it adversity? So sometimes prosperity and adversity come very frankly. Sometimes they are mixed up. First point, do not be shaken. Be like a tree that faces adversity and moves this way, prosperity moves that way, ends up making the root stronger. Do not let your adversity and prosperity become like to gain a hurricane type of strength. And that's within your control. With God within you, things can be faced in a positive way or in a negative way. In Mahabharata, there is a statement by Bhishma. Sukham va yadi va dukkham, priyam va yadi va apriyam, praptam praptum upasita, hridayena aparajita. Conditions develop in your life. They can be pleasant, they can be painful. They can be likable, they can be dislikable. Do not allow your heart to be defeated by them. Your heart, put it in a very simple way to understand. If you are a mother and your children are jumping around, sometimes they do cozy things, comfortable. Sometimes they put themselves in trouble. But your heart continues to hold them very dear to you. You are not shaken. It's an important point to understand. If you are gripped by a situation, colored by it, then you are defeated by that situation. You lost your objectivity. Situation can be positive. Things look all positive sunshine and beautiful breeze and everything clear. But keep a mind open, no matter how positive, don't jump beyond your limit. Don't be swayed by it. Adversity comes, here again cold shower has started coming. Instead of being completely shaken, take your umbrella. You will look better. You are not defeated. The term defeated is very important. Not be defeated by whatsoever situation you face. The situations are like clouds, and clouds cannot shake the sky. Though it appears the whole sky becomes overpowered, but the clouds cannot shake the sky. And try to develop that type of sky-like firmness. How can that happen? If you begin to understand, as soul, you are a ray of God. Every reflected sun, no matter how limited it is in a jar, how shaken it is by little water, it is in reality, it is the sun. Every soul, no matter how the soul may experience all the turmoil and all the muck and karkat, all the troubles, of the world process, no matter how it may happen, it relates to God. And that God will never give up its reflection. God can do anything possible, but this is impossible for God. In this stage, the omnipotence of God doesn't work. So no matter what predicament, your soul is connected with God. Connected again is just an allegorical way of saying. So in other words, if devotion were to enter in your life, start seeing things being handled by God who is the reality behind all. And better aspect of seeing God as reality is He is the source of your mind, your thoughts. You don't have to look for Him somewhere far and wide. Look into your eyes, and who is shining through your eyes? What lies behind your eyes? What lies behind your nose? Behind your ears? What makes all this work so miraculously? So, face all challenges in life and all happenings without being defeated by them. Love of God must continue to stay within your heart. And as it blossoms, you are being led to enlightenment. So, being enlightened is not characterized by miraculous things happening at every step. She's enlightened. When he comes, flowers jump out. People become transfigured. The forest becomes spring season. That will be a wonderful enlightenment. You study the lives of sages and saints, things don't happen like that. They are facing challenges of different types. And their saintliness has to develop. In the expression of qualities, such as even in most hateful situations, a saintly person will not lose his heart, love. He handles difficult circumstances, inimical situations with a loving heart. And that's called revelation, that's illumination. And that illumination, it doesn't look like illumination at all. But the effect of that, people are touched, their lives change. Even negative people become extremely positive. Wicked become saintly. And their effect goes on and on in promoting, elevating states of culture. So all that you don't see, but all that is implied. And of course, human life is always abound with miracles. And a saintly personality also has miracles around it. I'm not going to that way, but just to understand that point. Let me quote another quotation from a saintly source. Deho devalayah prokto, jivo devah sadashiva, त्यजेद अज्ञान निर्माल्यम सोहम भावेन पूजयेत. This body that you live in is Devalaya, is a temple, abode of gods. When we say gods, it's just one God with different aspects. And of course, scriptures give you whole detail. Sun God is operating through your eyes. Like early in the morning, people are advised to look at their hands. Karagre vasate Lakshmi, on the tips of your fingers, Lakshmi Devi. Karamadhye Saraswati, the middle of your palm, there is Goddess Saraswati. Karamule to Govindam. And the wrists is Krishna. There's the whole detail there of presiding deities. Every part of your body has a deity behind it. But all those deities are different aspects of one God. Simple point, you understand all that you have from toes to the head. This is a marvelous act of creation. And you don't worry about it. Everything is being handled by a cosmic source. And behind that, cosmic powers. Therefore, develop a sanctified attitude to your personality. It is your temple, meant to discover love of God. And that you do by using the temple the way it should be used, a basis for your puja, your worship, prayer, meditation. Deho devalaya prokto. And the soul within you is God Himself. The ray of God is same as God. Therefore, your daily puja, worship, consists in removing layers and layers of ignorance. When we talk of ignorance, three things are involved: mala, vikshepa and avarana. If you are removing gross impurity like anger, sullen-headedness, pride, anger, turning anger into love. The word is used, nirmalyam. When you do puja in a ritualistic stage, your eyes are always on the flowers. And when you see a particular flower shrinking away, withering away, you take it, throw it. That's called nirmalya. So, day by day, watch to offer fresh flowers. Bring the affirmation, bring your mind in a positive way. Bring the best things, good feelings, good thoughts. All these are beautiful flowers. Put them in your heart. The Shivalinga in the form of your soul. And don't become satisfied. Next day, look into it. Those have shriveled up, throw them away. Don't hold on to the negative. Look for more positive. And that's called nirmalyam. And this process works upon mala, gross impurities gradually being sublimated. Vikshepa, mind that is so distracted, doesn't know what to go for. The distraction moves away. And finally, the veil of illusion that causes all the bondage, the very root source of all misery, that moves away. But each removal is in degrees. It doesn't happen all at once. So just like if you are a devotee of God in following the ritual, day by day you come early in the morning, you watch the flowers that have shriveled away, throw them, put new flowers, put new incense. That nirmalya you go on doing day by day. Don't fall for all the news that goes on breaking. It is stake, worshipping God. Develop that type of understanding of how to live in the world. Don't go on gathering all things that keep your mind agitated. But figure out how to hold on to some positive touch, the scriptural teachings, prayers, japa, and bring the mind to that type of awareness that God is within me. When that you do it, even if it is of a very short dosage, you have offered a fresh flower. So it is living a life for constant process of refreshing the offerings of flowers and be inspired by the smile of God within you. What else you want? If you become firmly rooted, then that climaxes into self-realization. So the main highlight in this stage, do not be defeated, no matter what situation, no matter how horrible situation, do Hari Bol. Yada sangharate chayam कर्मोंगानीव सर्वशः इंद्रियाणि इंद्रियार्थेभ्यः तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता. When he is able to withdraw his senses from the sense objects, even like a tortoise that withdraws its limbs from all sides, he is then established in wisdom. See, easily said. You practice it just literally, you end up into a very negative state. In other words, try to become a turtle. Stick yourself in one place. Stay for hours stuck with the idea I'm entering into nirvikalpa samadhi. You will end up with many, many troubles, even physical troubles. Therefore, the term pratyahar, withdrawing the senses, that has to be understood well. Let me give you different angles. First, when we talk of senses in this context, it relates to five senses of perception, five organs of action, and mind. Sankhya philosophy counts them as 11. But the mind contains in itself four aspects: mind, intellect, ego, and unconscious. All this together is described as indriyas. When you are able to withdraw the senses, advanced point of view, it means when you are able to utilize the senses in proper order. If your senses are under the control of your mind, and mind is under control of your intellect, and intellect is under control of divine hand, you have absolute pratyahar. You are a real turtle. Lord Vishnu in the form of the turtle. You are able to hold all the burden of the world just like a little flower. That's a very advanced understanding of pratyahar. Come to practical level. Very practical. You want to be quiet, but neighbors are not quiet. So what's the method of being quiet? Very practical method. Bring some cotton fibers, put it in your ears. There's the kindergarten of pratyahar. Next level, if you don't want to be in kindergarten, come to another grown-up state, not completely. Move away from that room that brings in all that noise. Go into another one which is completely sealed. But it is helpful only for a short duration. This is not a practical reality of your life. If you have to completely shut yourself away from the world for practicing pratyahar, it is helpful to some extent. But if you go into extreme in that direction, you will not get the real result of pratyahar. So now come to another stage. Discrimination. Move away from noisy state which makes unnecessary noise to another stage which brings you some sweet music of bhajans and kirtans. You didn't shut your ears, but you are practicing pratyahar. But in this stage of pratyahar, you start shutting the doors to noise, and much of your time goes in that direction. Come to another state. You have so much control over your mind that all the negative sounds, you don't ignore them. You have no taste for it. You have worked upon your mind. Mind has no taste for things that are unnecessary. So you don't go on after shutting your door against them. You will shut them according to your need, but you don't live your life just going after the negative and how to chase them away. But your mind itself has become grown up, it will not give attention to it. It will give attention to that which is positive. Now you are reaching advanced state of pratyahar. In the beginning stage of sadhana, what is important? That avoid extreme measure. Neither give full license to your senses, nor should you give complete restraint over your senses. Because none of this is a real resolution. Term is used, samyama. This is illustrated in Lord Buddha's life. He practices lots of extreme meditation. And then, in divine order, he is being given a lesson. 3 musicians pass by. And what they were singing? Their song was, "Oh friends, don't tighten this string too much. The melody that will come out will be all donkey melody." You will not find the same words in the story. Everyone tells the story according to their own. Or do not keep the strings too loose, and there will be no melody. And the third one sings, neither loose nor tight. Keep it just in harmony, and the melody will flow best way. So that's the subtlety behind the practice of pratyahar. And also to have the picture of chariot. Senses are like the horses. Mind manipulates the senses. Mind is like the chariot driver. Rather, and intellect, mind is described as the reins that control the horses. And intellect is the one that handles those ropes. The intellect is the chariot driver. And who is being driven? The soul. And this setting must be put in order in daily life. To give you the summary of what we have taught in Sthita Prajna lesson so far, renunciation of all desires, desires based on your ego. Ego-based desires, they are not, because ego itself is not reality. So if you continue to live as ego, firstly, all your desires will never be fulfilled. And secondly, even if it is think it is fulfilled, your ego has grabbed all the joy of fulfillment. So that's understanding. The goal of life is not to be trapped by desires. Next point, absolute fulfillment in God. The absolute self, the river is absolutely fulfilled when it enters the ocean. If the soul comes to realize I am that, then there is absolute fulfillment. But as long as the soul is deluded, I am the body, I am the senses, I am the ego, my happiness lies in Bangalore. Nothing against Bangalore. Or in New Zealand, or in Australia, or in Alaska, or in Gandharva Loka, in Svarga Loka. As long as you have that type of picture of happiness, you go on hopping. Third point, allowing your mind to stay unshaken, equanimity in pleasure, pain, gain, loss, joy, sorrow. Equanimity aspect should not go away. A tree can shake, but its rootedness and giving the nourishment to the root and drawing nourishment from the root, that's not shaken. That's called equanimity. And recognizing your impurities in 3 levels. Anger. Anger is agitation, a stressful agitation where you lose control over yourself. You must realize anger doesn't cure anything. You see a corner of your room, a little fire has started. And all that you do is anger develops. and sparks come out of your eyes. That doesn't cure the situation. So, remember the Nirmalya movement. Every anger type of sentiment, cut it away, remove it, and allow positive to be planted, positive flower to be brought. Think of positive. Starve your heart to develop softness. Someone is behaving very crudely. Be a motherly heart. What makes this wonderful person so ugly in his mind? How much suffering he goes through. Does he have any time to enjoy real life? Oh God, help him. On the other hand, what a nasty person. Oh God, send him to hell. See the difference between two types of. So handling your anger and sublimating it, that's called nirmalyam. Then handling your fear. Sometimes fear seems to be very passive, and it is worse than your anger. But that you have to figure it out to be when you become more of a psychoanalyst. When you have fear, it's just like a cloud has shut out the light. You have no nourishment. It's kind of a fear hovering over your mind. And that one should not let go happen. Keep yourself involved in activity, positive activity, instead of staying cozy with fear-laden head. And remove that fear layer by layer, little by little, by positive, arousing the positive within you and seeing the act of God within yourself, remembering how miracles have happened in your life and how everything is being handled by divine without your bothering about it. Even when you go to sleep, someone from God is watching. A perpetual nurse from toes to your head. Not only in your physical body, even in your mind and in your unconscious, changes are occurring. So do not anger, fear, and Trishna, longing for things that not based on your intellectual understanding. You are just longing to go after without understanding what you are going after. You are thirsty. That doesn't mean that you put your tongue into mud. Every soul is thirsty. But thirsty for what? Pure water, not mucky water. So, go on correcting your Trishna aspect. Send your Trishna to Krishna. Long for touch of God's, touch of divine bhakti, devotion. What type of rasa can you enjoy if your heart has love of God? Figure out positive type of bhavana feeling in your heart and how much you are nourished by it. A negative bhavana, negative feeling, how much you are hurt by it. So, Trishna, craving, longing, krodh, anger, bhaya, fear, go on cutting them down. Nirmalyam, go on removing these ugly flowers from the puja room. Next point, aim at anasakti, not to be attached to any situation. Everything in the world is passing. It is not, the reality is not to hold on to the world. A dream, no matter how positive, you have to get out of it. But of course, that's again the verbal statement. There is no dream that is just all positive. There is no life that is just always prosperous. The world is full of illusions. And therefore, turn your life into practice of yoga. What does that mean? Turn your action into karma yoga. Turn your sentiments, feelings into bhakti yoga. Turn your willing process into dhyana yoga, meditation. Turn your understanding process into jnana yoga. Try to understand, these are very profound terms. Same actions, but when you begin to bring into it a spiritual touch, this action is in my life, God has designed it, let me please Him. Pleasing Him is more important than pleasing the ego. So the fruit of karma is not the goal, though you work for it. If you have a project, you want the project to succeed in the physical world. But suppose it didn't. All that you do, you did your best and offered it to God. When and then you realize, then you develop an understanding that what you are gaining by your action, your heart becomes lighter, brighter, cooler, more joyous. Bhavana Shuddhi. When action is done with that type of art, it's called karma yoga. Next stage, always experience of touch of love of any type. Watch even a squirrel looking at you. A loving guy touches your heart. And I'm joking, but to understand. That type of good-heartedness, be good, do good. That movement in your feeling, with the intention, with the deeper understanding, this is the way you are. God is providing you with all these situations, names and forms that bring the oozing of love. Love oozes out of them. And that love comes from God. So much so in every relation, you are experiencing the love of God. And that becomes the most vibrant aspect of culture, if people were to develop that. Otherwise, with all the politics, etc., humanity is under terrible terror. I will not go into that. That's not mine. But developing loving heart, that's the important point. That's the most. So what I was describing, how your feeling turns into yoga. You are intent upon highlighting your feeling, and in that feeling, seeing the touch of God and thanking God and allowing that feeling to become more and more expansive. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, may all be happy. Then the willing aspect, the mind is always going after so many things. Gather the mind and allow the mind to go after the real purpose of life. That's called Dhyana Yoga. Raja Yoga gives you highlight of that aspect. Gathering the mind, instead of mind looking for happiness in so many directions, the mind should understand all these extensions of things. They come from one source, God. To learn the art of not allowing the mind to be distracted, but to be one-pointed. And in that one-pointedness lies tremendous strength. And your understanding level, instead of trying to understand everything of this world, even you can't understand even people who are close by, even in your block. But you take up the task of understanding everything. Every person will bring a volume. Every family has volumes of problems and history. And again, come to another level. People are fascinated by knowing about the world, the stars and things that were not known before. Now science brings before you. All that has to be used as a purposeful information. If it is purposeful in your life, that's okay. But if it is without purpose, you are gathering lots of informations. You are just destroying your inner energy over little things. In other words, that's what the scripture presents like a question. What is that knowing which all is known? And that answer is by knowing God. Allow your intellect, utilize all your intellectual resources for gaining that understanding. Who am I? As mind clears and intellect begins to understand, first thing you understand, the world you are experiencing is not the reality. It's like an iPad. Your ego is the eye. And nervous system is your pad. And all you experience is based upon these nerves. And behind that, who is manipulating it is the I, ego. And behind all, the absolute self, ocean absolute. So, it's bad to be with the iPad. This is jnana yoga. Utilize the resources of knowledge to bring about transformation in your intellect. Instead of being intellectual, become intuitional. And that's the big project, that's the jnana yoga. So when you have put all the four together, karma yoga, action into karma yoga, feelings, emotions into bhakti yoga, willing aspect of the mind into dhyana yoga, meditation, and understanding into jnana yoga. These four are not different from each other. They are four aspects of the same movement. In your karma yoga, in your action, you will not advance unless your feeling becomes purified. Your feeling will not be purified unless you have mental focus, dhyana. And dhyana will not succeed unless you begin to have a deeper intuitive understanding. So go one way or the other. All these four, they do supplementing and complementing each other. And there are four aspects. You may choose any one of the yoga in your life, but your mind must understand the other yogas are with it. If you don't do that, then you become mean-minded, narrow-minded. So with this I will conclude. It's taken up a lot of time. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om. And also let me conclude with prayer. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukuma Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshiyamamritat. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kashiddukha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Mritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Hari Om. Okay, I'm coming back. And then, yeah.
tear it apart and give it back home. Let grace have your light, take your stride and fill your soul with love and joy and bliss. All of this she has in store, freedom and release, deepest peace, and so much more. These gifts are here for us if we trust the force inside. It's the easiest thing to do, so let it through. You cannot hide. Sri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram, 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 Sri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram.
Thank you. Most beautiful. While you're enjoying your delicious prasad, I'd like to read you a little bit more from Swamiji's newest book, Mystic Pathways Through the Bible. This selection comes from a discussion of the 6th Beatitude of Lord Jesus, Sermon of the Mount. That 6th Beatitude is entitled, Blessed are the poor in heart, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. In this beatitude, Christ promises the highest attainment of God realization through purification of the heart, which in yogic terminology is referred to as chitta shuddhi. Each religious tradition glorifies this attainment of self-realization, though calling it by different names, and each recognizes the importance of purification on the path of spirituality. The mind, like a mirror, reflects your own ever-present divine consciousness. However, impurities, agitations, and obstructions prevent that mirror of mind from revealing your consciousness in all its perfection. Sadhana, the course of spiritual discipline chosen by an aspirant, is the mystical cleansing process that removes the impurities and obstructions and allows you to see the self clearly reflected. Lord Jesus asserts, "For they shall see God." But does this mean that we can perceive God the way we perceive a candle flame, a table, chairs, a cake, or Christmas gifts? Can we touch God? The fact is that God is not a form of speculation, but can be seen by the inner intuitive eye with a directness of perception that is unknown in the world of objects. God can be seen directly, but the mind must first be purified. When the mind is purified, intuition unfolds, linking itself to every sense within you. When you look into the sky with the naked eye, you see nothing but a blue sky. But when you look through a telescope, you see the vastness of space. Similarly, If you place before your eyes the telescope of intuitive vision, you will find God before you. Then you can touch God, you can see God, you can talk to God, you can walk with God, you become one with God. The sages and saints have given testimony to this fact. In all countries, sages and saints did not just philosophize about the existence of God. They actually had the awareness of oneness with God. Therefore, blessed are the pure in heart, for they who have acquired that type of purity will have the vision of God. In Vedantic teachings, seeing God, the ultimate blessing experienced by the pure in heart, is characterized by Brahmakara vritti, the unceasing, unimpeded flow of mind to God. Although an aspirant must exert considerable effort to succeed in sadhana, those efforts are all ultimately aimed at stilling the mind so that the effortless, intuitive revelation of the self can spontaneously occur. In that stillness, there blossoms a perpetual awareness of God as the only reality behind all that exists. Imagine for a moment that a lake in its agitation is trying to capture the sun by producing numerous waves. However, if the waves on the surface of the lake all shimmer so much in the light, the sun cannot be seen clearly in its entirety. When the lake reaches a higher state of wisdom, it realizes that creating more waves doesn't capture anything new. Therefore, it should just quiet the waves and remain still. The entire sun then majestically appears in the lake. In a similar way, the human heart longs to recapture its oneness with God, but the agitation of the externalization of mind makes that impossible. As profound devotion and wisdom unfold through sadhana, mind discovers that the same reality, Brahman, the divine self, is behind everything in this world of apparent multiplicity. Therefore, mind becomes placid and is no longer distracted by desires for objects and circumstances in the world of time and space. No longer is it obsessed with the question, which one should I pursue now? Rather, the mind becomes internalized. It flows perpetually towards God through the highest mental function, Brahmakara vritti, and the glorious light of the self is revealed with perfect clarity. This next section is called Adorn Yourself with Divine Qualities. To see God as your own self, you must ask yourself, how can I be more like God? What qualities does God possess that I can perfect in my own personality? A purified mind is one that is free from impressions of attachment, hatred, egoism, and selfishness. As long as these negative impressions exist, the unconscious will be a source of negative thoughts and the negative actions resulting from these thoughts. Therefore, the task before an aspirant is to replace these impure impressions with divine impressions, impressions of humility, truthfulness, contentment, peace, harmony, and devotion that the Bhagavad Gita identifies as Dvisampat. Conquering negative qualities within your personality is one of the greatest movements on the spiritual journey. The secret in sublimating lower tendencies lies in replacing them with their positive counterparts. For instance, if you are feeling hatred, gradually develop the quality of love. If you are struggling with anger, patiently promote forgiveness or compassion. In this way, you attain greater purity, or sattva, within your personality. Sattva is one of the three modes of nature that constantly condition your mind. Rajas or restless externalization and ostentatiousness, and tamas, dullness and inertia, are the other two. You can transform rajas and tamas into sattva by training your mind to perform righteous actions through thought, word, and deed, and by patiently cultivating divine virtues. When your personality becomes perfectly adorned with those jewels of virtue, you will see God. To see God or to know God means to become God. So many treasures in this book. You can open it just about anywhere and get good help. We're going to open the floor to questions. They're still eating. Questions, and we need a mic that's... You all know Kanishka, Swamiji's dear disciple. So you should ask a question just to have him come and bring you the mic. If you have a question for Swamiji, please raise your hands.
So, Swamiji, my question is about karma yoga and how we could make, if we have like a regular job that we go to every day that we need to make money to make a living, I was trying to think how we can turn that into karma yoga.
In your regular job, first, live a qualitative style of life, you see. And that will happen if you do your japa, meditation, and with that spirit, if you go there in your job, you will smile at your boss. Work with your people who are working with you. In other words, instead of radiating mental distraction and stress, you will be doing something positive. And that challenge is always there. You have always the possibility of making yourself express in a better way and handle the job as effectively and efficiently as possible. And total satisfaction that you have done well, and leave it to that. And behind the show of boss and business is the service done to God.
So we do the best job we can, and then in the background we say to God, okay, we're offering all this to you.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
With an exception, oh God, make my life joyous, saras, less difficulty. Saj, saras and sanidhya. May I face the problems of life in a simple way, spontaneous way. And life should bring in more and more of a divine taste, rasa. More instead of having the taste of pleasures and all that, worldly pleasures, let the heart have the pleasure of a divine pleasure of discovering mystic softness, mystic generosity, compassion. Let those flowers blossom. And ultimate goal in view, may I be enlightened, commune with God. Yeah.
What type of yoga is japa?
Is under bhakti yoga, the yoga of devotion. So japa, you are connecting with God, worshipping God. And that works upon your feelings. Feelings turn into divine feeling, which blossom into divine love. So japa is under bhakti yoga.
Pranam Gurudev. Knowing that we read in the scriptures that we should be asking for devotion and to melt the ego, and in integral yoga, we know that this is an organic movement. What advice do you have to the yoga practitioners who are about fear and about pride? So how to not let pride enter about how much I've learned or how good of a yogi I've become, this kind of thing. How do you advice for people who have come under pride?
When devotion enters, a divine hand begins to operate with you. Sometimes you can handle your room and put things in order, but sometimes there are problems in your room that require technician. That technician is the divine within you. So, and that, put it in simple way, as you go on developing a subtle taste for devotion to God, and then automatically there develops an understanding that God is almighty. So, problems are not as burdensome as you thought. All problems, they are nothing for God. And so with that spirit of surrender, as it goes on increasing, you advance. And negative fades away and gets sublimated. The integral yoga goes on helping each other. Karma helps bhakti, bhakti helps karma. Both help devotion, meditation. They all help the movement towards knowledge. They are all integral, interrelated.
Any more questions?
Okay. Narayana.
One more question.
Okay.
Excuse me, Swamiji, why does the nature have an elephant head?
Elephant head has many good things. It's a very flappy ear. The elephant head can hear lots of things. But elephant head is symbolic of God. See, where your mind is being taken to God by describing the elephant head. The trunk of the elephant does two things. It smells as well as breaks. Smelling means to know, to understand. Breaking means to do action, duty. You understand your father is adorable. In your action, you bring him nice tea. You have an elephant nose. Understand, these are all allegorical. And you listen. You don't have to make a flappy ears. Just become focused, concentrated. Then you begin to understand people when they say. Then you have elephant flapping ears. See? Do you know the importance of cartoons? Cartoons are not real, but they are very entertaining. And they give you message. This is a mystic cartoon. God doesn't have a real elephant head, but this is the way symbolically it is given to human mind.
We now ask Sri Narayan to give us his talk.
Okay.
Pranam Gurudev, Om Tat Sat everyone. Tonight I'll be speaking on the fourth mantra of Kena Upanishad. Now, Kena Upanishad is in the form of a dialogue between the Guru and the student. So in this particular mantra, the Guru is instructing the student. It says, knowledge born of intuition is the true knowledge, because by the force of this knowledge, one realizes the immortal self. He derives spiritual energy from his self and immortality from his knowledge. So 2 points are presented in this mantra. The first is one that we have heard many times before. This is Gadaparinyaya, as known in Sanskrit. It's the repetition of the same teaching in order to gain a firm understanding. The analogy is drawn between, planting a stake in the ground and hammering it repeatedly so that the stake is firm. So the first point that's presented in this mantra is the distinction between intuitional knowledge, knowledge born of intuition, and knowledge born of intellectual gymnastics, right? Which is our default setting of the mind, right? And that's important. Intellectual knowledge is important. We have to study the scriptures and reflect through our intellectual mind. But it's an important distinction to be made that Brahman cannot be cognized through the intellectual mind. It is something that's intuited through our intuitional higher mind. And the second point presented in this mantra is the causal relationship between self-effort combined with faith, which gives rise to spiritual energy, spiritual strength, and understanding that gives rise to the revelation, I am that am I. Now, Raja Yoga Sutras of Patanjali Maharshi very clearly illustrates these two relationships in a succession of stages. So the first stage is Shraddha, which means faith. So self-effort blended with faith, that faith in God, faith in Brahman, faith in yourself. Self-effort combined with that deep-rooted faith gives rise to what is known as virya in Sanskrit, which is the spiritual strength. It's not physical strength, right? You don't get buff and have six-pack abs, and no, it's a spiritual strength. And Swamiji today went into detail into pratyahar, which is the control of the withdrawal of the senses, or the control, as he clarified today, the control of the indriyas, the control of the mind, and the control of the organs of perception, and the control of the organs of action. One is no longer a victim of circumstance. Right? One can always keep a calm composure. You're in control, right? So that's virya, that's spiritual strength. And this spiritual strength gives rise to what is known as smriti. It means mystic recall. One begins to glimpse the true underlying nature of one's self. One starts to glimpse that this body is subject to change. It's not really the I am. This mind is subject to change. It's not the real I am. And this mystic recall put into practice lends itself to samadhi, which is the expansion of consciousness, the expansion of one's understanding, right? That which is referred to in this Upanishad, right? It's understanding that gives rise to that revelation, I am that am I. So samadhi leads to prajna, which is the absolute knowledge, the intuitional knowledge, I am that am I. So he derives spiritual energy from his self and immortality from his knowledge. And more next time. Thank you, Swamiji. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Thank you.
And now Ashwin, please. His unique blend of medical and spiritual wisdom.
Pranam Gurudev. Om Tat Sat. So I can think of no more nourishing a way to end our week together after hearing Swamiji's satsang and also enjoying prasad. And that feeling of contentedness is now being studied in medicine. So we can understand what molecules are released by the body that contribute to what we call satiety, that feeling of contentedness that tells the brain, I'm content, I don't need to eat any more food. So that satiety is controlled by two molecules known as leptin and ghrelin. Leptin and ghrelin are what we call adipokines, and these are molecules that are released by the digestive tract when the digestive tract is nourished by healthy carbohydrates, healthy fats, and healthy proteins together, as what we just enjoyed. That signal is released then to the brain, saying that we don't need any more food. So many people who have the goal of improving body composition by reducing body fat can do well to practice a few easy steps in order to promote this satiety, this signal that is released that tells the brain, I don't need to eat any more food. And that's really important for portion control. These steps include really chewing our food, really, taking time, because the process of digestion actually begins in our mouths. So taking the time to chew our food and nourish our food. In addition to that, even before that, a little bit of prayer. So when you sit down to eat and you start to, you're sitting in front of your food and you take a moment to express gratitude, what ends up happening is that the digestive furnace gets ignited. And that's very good, because there's really two modes of nature in which the body exists. One is the sympathetic, that is the fight and flight. Get up and go, get things done. So where most of the blood flow is to the muscles and bones. Then the other end of the spectrum is rest and digest, where all the blood is shunted to brain and digestive tract. So a little bit of prayer right before we eat actually shifts the needle over to the rest and digest end of the spectrum, igniting the gastric furnace, the digestive furnace, and allowing better assimilation of food. Then chewing our food and also eating a good combination of healthy fats, healthy proteins, and healthy carbohydrates. Some examples of healthy fats include avocado, coconut, nuts and seeds. Healthy proteins include beans and legumes, including lentils and all kinds of beans and lentils. Then comes healthy carbohydrates. Think about fruits and vegetables. So if your diet is a healthy combination of these three things in each meal, then that satiety mechanism kicks in, and we can focus on portion control and thereby achieve better body composition and better lifelong health. One other important consideration is one of the ways that we can actually extinguish the satiety mechanism is chronic stress. So chronic stress, evolutionarily, we experienced as human beings, chronic stress was generally in the context of drought and famine. So in order to survive, the satiety signal was actually turned down during famine, so that when we found food, we could eat as much as we could. So making sure that we manage our stress levels by japa meditation and all these other techniques is also very important, because when that will also make portion control much easier. If we are under chronic stress, then that satiety signal is diminished significantly. And more in my next time.
Very good, very good. Yeah.
Swamiji, just a few thank yous. Guess who prepared this humble disciple? So we thank Rajneesh and his cheerful band of choppers and stirrers for the delicious food that you ate today. And Padma Devi brought the salad, and Vasudeva the dessert. And we thank them all. Remember, our next festivity is a 10-day long festivity in October, and you'll be hearing more about this as we get closer. We will be celebrating Navaratri Puja at the ashram, worship of God as the Divine Mother, for 10 days, beginning on Friday, October 5th, and culminating on Sunday, October 14th. Remember that during that time, our normal schedule of classes will not be held. That means instead of Yoga Vashishta and the Ramayana and the meditations and the normal Sunday program that you're enjoying tonight, our whole focus will be on Navaratri Puja. So that means from 7 p.m., starting on October 5th, till Saturday, October 13th, we'll be meeting at 7 p.m. for our celebration and study the Devi Mahatmya scripture and the rituals that we cherish and the delicious prasads. So we'll be meeting at 7 for those 9 days, and then on the 10th day, on Sunday, October 14th, we will begin our festivity of Vijayadashmi at 5 p.m. So please look forward with a big open heart to that celebration, and remember that our normal program, and spread the word about the importance of this festivity and the fact that the regular classes will not be held at the normal times. And now it is time to come for Kumkum blessing, and we ask Sanchari to lead us in song, and everyone join in.